Hey folks, good morning and welcome to another episode of Steelers Morning Rush. I'm Alan Saunders. It is Friday. We made it to Friday, May 30th. Thanks for sticking around with us for another week. A busy week for the Pittsburgh Steelers as we wrapped up the first week of OTAs yesterday. Lots and lots of content here on the YouTube channel for 3 days of OTAs, and we'll have some more video interviews rolling out today and over the weekend. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Today, we'll talk about the Steelers' pursuit of another, I guess we'll say, pass catcher, since the search has been expanded beyond the wide receiver position. Reportedly yesterday, the Steelers have been in talks with the Miami Dolphins about tight end Jonnu Smith. As I said yesterday in the afternoon drive, not something I think the Steelers are pushing for necessarily, and also not something I really think is imminent or maybe even likely to happen. It seems like Jonnu Smith and the Dolphins are more focused on each other, and this is just a part of that negotiating process. But here's what I think you should know about the Steelers' wide receiver situation. The Steelers are absolutely deeply committed to acquiring a wide receiver this offseason, or another pass catcher, I suppose. They understand that their current group of players at wide receiver are not good enough. They're not going to say that, but they understand that. And we should know that by their actions. Again, we know they reached out to Chris Olave. We know they reached out to the Packers. Reported by our own Zachary Smith yesterday, they reached out to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers about yet another wide receiver in speedster Trey Palmer. So they're out there, and then Jonnu Smith. They're out there. They're looking. Will they get one? I think probably, but it's not a sure thing, and it's certainly not a sure thing that it's going to be an impact player. There are free agents on the market. Those guys aren't going anywhere. Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, DJ Chark. They're not needle movers. This process is going to take a while. Like, I am not sitting here on Friday, May 30th on pins and needles about the Steelers wide receiver situation. Teams with too many good wide receivers are not going to want to trade away from that surplus until they have to, until they get ready to get into the season. And now it's like, oh, we got to cut one of these guys, or oh, someone is way too good for the role that we have for him, and he's going to be upset, and we got to find a way. But until those roles are sorted out, until all the randomness of the offseason and injuries and random poor performances and things like that happen, nobody wants to give up what looks like a strong position group on May 30th. So, like, I don't get the sense that this is something that, whether it's Palmer or Smith or anybody, is going to happen anytime soon. I think this is more likely going to be something that is going to stretch out and drag out throughout the entire offseason, just like we saw last year. And just like last year when they were desperately trying to land Brandon Ayuk, the Steelers knew their wide receivers weren't good enough. That's why they went after Brandon Ayuk, and they said over and over again, yeah, we feel comfortable with the group. Like, don't mistake what they're saying publicly for what their true intentions are. Let their actions show you what their true intentions are. They tried over and over again last offseason to land a wide receiver, not only with Ayuk. They tried for Cortland Sutton. They tried for Darius Slayton. They tried in season for Christian Kirk. They eventually did get Mike Williams. Very similarly, they're trying hard again this offseason. But there's a difference between understanding that your position group is not good enough and being desperate to make a move. And I think that is where you will see the Pittsburgh Steelers fall short of maybe where the fan base is about this problem, because I don't think the Steelers are in desperation mode about the wide receiver position. And it's not because they think Roman Wilson is an all-pro or something like that. Robert Woods is just going to light it up here. It's because they really understand that this is a team that is probably a year or two away from truly being able to contend in an AFC that has Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is not the place to put all your chips into the pile. And so you're not going to see, like, we've seen aggressive Omar Khan. The DK Metcalf move was aggressive. We've also seen Omar Khan be patient and wait for his spot. And I think that's what you're going to see this offseason at the receiver position, because it's not a big enough problem or it's not a problem that is going to hold this team back from anything that it would otherwise get to uh, in order to make a bad deal. If a good deal happens, this doesn't make a good deal. And if last year, like the Brandon Ayuk saga, if they can't make a good deal, they won't make one. I think they will. I expect them to, but I think you know, there's, especially when you're talking about the idea of trading future draft capital, the future draft capital they worked so hard this offseason to acquire, that is so essential to the idea of them being able to trade up for a quarterback in the 2026 draft, which is, by the way, the only way they're getting a franchise quarterback, which is the number one problem and the number one reason this team hasn't been in contention. You can't lose sight of that because you're sick of watching Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin. You can't lose sight of the fact that those picks were acquired for a reason. That reason was to go get a quarterback, and trading them for a wide receiver now takes away from that. Yeah, the wide receiver situation is bleak. They understand that, but not going to make a bad deal just to fix it, especially that bad deal takes away from their ability to fix the big problem with the franchise next offseason. So I think they've got their eye on the prize, but I just wanted to kind of, like, I had a lot of people ask me this week, like, what's going on with wide receiver? What are they doing? What are you thinking? What are you hearing? I'm like, nothing. I mean, yeah, they're making calls. They've called probably 31 teams 3 times. I'm sure in addition to the ones that we've reported, there are 40 or 50 other players that Omar Khan has talked to another general manager about possibly acquiring. But I don't get the sense that there is a market right now where there are motivated sellers at a price that is anything other than exorbitant. Omar Khan's not going to pay that. He's going to wait and see. And I think you look at a depth chart like Green Bay's, it's obviously overcrowded. There are a couple others. Similarly, New England comes to mind. Houston comes to mind. So there's a good reason to wait, and I think that's what I expect the Steelers to do. Of course, now that I said that, probably have a deal this afternoon. Coming up, we got some video interviews coming from OTAs here midday, and then we will have Steelers Afternoon Drive, myself, Smitty, DB, just about 6 o'clock here on a Friday. So make sure you like, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications here on the YouTube channel. Stay tuned for that. Until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, enjoy.